Cole had lived on the alien world of Eliara for nearly 2 years. The skies here were a deep violet at dusk, the trees tall and glowing with soft blue light. Everything was calm, peaceful, so different from Earth, and even more different from the battlefield he once knew. Cole was not just a visitor here. He was the first human to live among the Eliari people. He was taller and stronger than most Eliari, with rougher features and muscles shaped by years of survival and war. But on this planet, he chose a quiet life. He worked on a small farm, gathered rare fruits from the forest, and spent most of his time with one person. Sira was an Eliari woman with soft silver-blue skin and long pale hair that shimmered like starlight. Her voice was gentle, and her eyes always carried a quiet curiosity about the universe and the human who had chosen her planet as home. She and Cole had grown close over time. She would often bring him herbal teas and rare crystals, and they would sit by the river talking for hours. Though the two never spoke directly about it, everyone could see their bond. They smiled more around each other. They shared meals. Sometimes they would walk without speaking, just enjoying the silence together. In Eliari culture, that kind of silence meant trust. One day, the two of them traveled to a trade post near the outer edge of the settlement. It was a small market with stalls made of stone and canvas, where Eliari merchants sold woven goods, spices, and polished stones that seemed to glow from within. Cole carried a bag on his back, filled with fruit, to trade. Sira walked beside him, pointing out a few items she liked. They laughed quietly together when she tricked him into trying a sour berry. But something was off. Cole felt it first. Years of training had given him instincts he couldn't turn off, even in peace. He noticed two figures standing by a supply crate, wearing dark cloaks and not talking to any merchant. Their eyes weren't on the stalls, they were on Sira. Cole didn't say anything right away. He just gently took Sira's hand and guided her to a different stall. "Something wrong?" she asked softly. "Not sure," Cole said. "But let's not stay too long." Sira nodded. She trusted his feelings even if she didn't fully understand them. Cole had told her bits and pieces of his past, that he used to be a soldier, that he had seen things he didn't want to talk about, but she never asked for more than he gave. After trading for some supplies, they began the walk back to their home, through the forest trail that passed the quiet rivers and rolling hills. Birds flew low between the trees and the air was cool, with the smell of fresh leaves. But even here, away from the trade post, Cole felt something was wrong. They reached a clearing surrounded by thick trees. It was usually peaceful, a place where they sometimes rested. But this time, Cole stopped. He listened. No birds, no wind. Too quiet. Then it happened. 4 figures stepped out from the trees, faces covered, hands gripping strange weapons, long rods that shimmered with energy. They spoke in a language Cole didn't understand, but their gestures were clear. They wanted Sira. Sira stepped back in fear, but Cole moved in front of her. "Get behind me," he said calmly. The attackers laughed. One of them lunged forward, reaching for Sira. That was a mistake. Cole's body moved on instinct, fast and brutal. He grabbed the attacker's arm and twisted it until something snapped. The man cried out, falling to the ground. The others charged, but Cole didn't stop. He blocked a strike with his forearm, took a punch to the ribs, and then used his elbow to hit one attacker in the face. Another came from behind, but Cole turned quickly and slammed his fist into the man's chest, knocking him down hard. Sira watched in stunned silence. Cole wasn't using any weapon, just his hands, but it was like watching a storm, sudden, unstoppable, terrifying in its power. When the last attacker stood up and tried to run, Cole grabbed him and threw him to the ground. He didn't hit him again. He just stood there, breathing hard, eyes filled with something Sira had never seen before. Fury. Not for himself, but for her. The clearing was quiet again, except for the sound of Cole's breathing. Sira slowly walked to him. "Are you hurt?" He shook his head, still staring at the attackers on the ground. "They were after you," he said. "They wanted to take you." She touched his hand gently. "You stopped them." He looked at her and the rage slowly faded from his eyes. I told you I'd protect you. Sira held his hand tighter. For the first time, she truly understood what kind of strength lived inside the man she cared about, not just in his body but in his heart. The next morning, the skies above Eliara were covered in soft clouds, and the breeze smelled of rain. But the memory of the attack still hung heavy over both Cole and Sira. They had returned home safely, but their peaceful life had clearly changed. Cole stood outside their wooden shelter sharpening a small knife, not because he needed it, but because old habits had returned. The man who once lived as a soldier had woken up again. He couldn't ignore what had happened. Someone had sent those attackers, and it wasn't random. Inside, Sira carefully placed bandages and ointments in a small pouch. She wasn't injured, but Cole had bruises on his arms and shoulders. She had seen him fight without hesitation, but now she worried about what that rage might do to him. She stepped outside quietly and sat beside him. "Are you going back to the trade post?" she asked gently. "No," he said. "Not yet. It's not safe there." Sira nodded. "I told the elders. They were shocked. Our world hasn't seen such violence in many years." "Do they believe you?" "They believe you. You protected one of us. That means a lot." Cole stopped sharpening the blade and looked at her. "I don't want this to become normal here. I left war behind for a reason." "I know," she said, "but sometimes the storm finds you, even if you're not looking for it." Cole smiled at her wisdom. Sira always had a way with words, calm and thoughtful. She had helped him forget the chaos he once lived in. That's why he cared so much, and why he was now ready to fight again, if needed. Later that day, they decided to visit the sacred grove, a quiet place in the forest filled with glowing plants and tall trees. It was Sira's favorite spot. She believed the grove gave her peace and guidance. Cole agreed to go with her, even though his instincts told him to stay alert. They walked through the forest trail, side by side. Cole carried a light pack, and Sira wore a long gray cloak that brushed against the grass. As they stepped into the grove, birds fluttered away, and soft blue light danced across the ground. "It's still beautiful," Sira said, kneeling to touch a small flower that shimmered when her fingers brushed its petals. Cole looked around. His eyes scanned the tree lines, the rocks, the sky above. It was too quiet again. The wind had stopped. The birds weren't singing anymore. "Sira," he said, his voice firm. "We need to leave." She stood up quickly. "Why?" "We're not alone." Before she could respond, 5 figures emerged from the trees, this time armed with stun rods and net launchers. They wore dark armor, with helmets that covered their faces. This was no group of random thieves. These were trained hunters. One of them pointed at Sira. "Take the girl, the human is not the target." But Cole stepped in front of her, fists clenched. "You'll have to go through me." 2 of the hunters charged at once, hoping to overpower him quickly. But they underestimated the power of a human who was already angry. Cole spun to the left, avoiding a stun rod, and punched the attacker in the ribs so hard the man flew backward into a tree. The second attacker tried to hit him from behind, but Cole grabbed his arm, pulled him forward, and slammed him to the ground. Sira backed away to the center of the grove. She didn't run, because she trusted Cole, but she knew this was dangerous. One of the attackers fired a net at her. It flew through the air, fast and wide. "No!" Cole shouted. He leapt in front of her just in time. The net wrapped around his back, but he didn't fall. With a loud roar, he tore it apart with his bare hands. The strength in his arms was something none of the Eliari had ever seen. The other attackers hesitated. One raised his weapon again, but Cole rushed forward, tackling him to the ground and landing a punch that shattered the attacker's helmet. The last 2 hunters looked at each other, then turned to run. Cole didn't chase them. He stood still, chest rising and falling, hands red and shaking. Sira rushed to him. "Cole, are you okay?" "I'm fine," he said, breathing hard. "Are you hurt?" "No," she whispered. "Because of you." She placed her hand on his cheek. His face was bruised, his knuckles were bleeding, but his eyes were full of fire. "You did it again," she said softly. You fought for me. I'll always fight for you, Cole said. No one takes you, not while I'm here. They stood in the glowing grove, surrounded by unconscious attackers and broken weapons. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Sira reached out and gently held his hand. I've never seen anything like that before, she whispered. Not even in our stories. Cole looked down, quiet. There's more to me than peace. I've kept it buried. But for you, I'd become a storm again. The stars began to shine above the trees as Cole and Sira made their way back from the sacred grove. The air was cool, and the sounds of the forest had returned, but the silence between them said more than words ever could. Sira kept glancing at Cole. His knuckles were scraped, his face was bruised, and his steps were slower than usual. Yet he didn't complain. He had fought again, just like the day before, and won. She had seen his strength with her own eyes. But it wasn't just strength. It was something else too. It was a deep fire that came alive only when she was in danger. They reached the edge of their home, a small hut made of wood and stone, surrounded by soft grass and flowers. The sky above was full of stars, and 2 moons hung low in the sky. Cole sat down near the small fire pit outside and started cleaning his hands with water. Sira brought out a small bowl of healing gel made from the leaves of Eliari trees. She knelt beside him and gently took his hand. You don't have to do that, Cole said quietly. I want to, she replied, softly spreading the gel over his bruised skin. Let me take care of you now. Cole didn't pull away. Her hands were gentle, her touch soft. The pain in his knuckles faded a little. Sira looked at his face. Why do you fight like that, Cole? Where did you learn it? He was quiet for a while. The fire crackled between them. I was trained on Earth, he said finally. In a place where peace didn't last long. We were taught to protect, to survive. I used to be a soldier, a good one. But I got tired of fighting. I saw too much, so I left. I came here to forget all that. But it's still inside you, she said. Cole nodded. Yes. I hoped I'd never need to use it again, but then they came for you. Sira lowered her head. I've never seen someone fight like you. Not even in our history. We Eliari stopped using violence long ago. Our people don't know how to handle it. I don't want to bring violence. Here, he said, but I won't let anyone harm you ever. Sira stayed quiet. Then slowly, she placed her hand on his chest. You're not like the others, she whispered. Not just because you're human, but because you carry so much inside. Pain, strength, and something else. Something kind. Cole looked at her, surprised. I've seen your smile, Cole. I've seen how you care for the smallest flower, how you help the children in the village, how you listen when I talk about the stars. But when danger comes, it's like you become someone else. Not cruel, but fierce. He looked away, embarrassed. Maybe I'm a mix of both. Sira smiled softly. Maybe that's why I feel safe with you. The wind blew gently. The fire flickered. Cole turned back to her. Do you know who those attackers were? Why would anyone target you? Sira's smile faded. I've been thinking about that too, and I might have an idea. She stood and walked over to a nearby box. From it, she pulled a small crystal disc. She placed it on the ground and it lit up, displaying a star map in the air. There's a group, she said, pointing at a red mark on the map. They call themselves the Zareth Syndicate. They operate outside our system. They believe Eliari crystals are powerful and valuable. We've heard rumors that they've been sending hunters to kidnap crystal bearers. And you? Cole asked. I was born with a rare energy pattern. The elders say my connection to the crystals is strong. Maybe that's why they came for me. Cole's fists tightened again. You should have told me sooner, he said. I didn't want to worry you, Sira whispered. You are my worry, Cole said gently. And my peace. If someone threatens that, They're going to learn what a human protector really is. Sira walked over and placed her forehead gently against his. Then let's face this together. They stayed like that for a moment, quiet, steady, connected. Then Sira pulled back and smiled. You're not just my friend anymore, are you? She asked. Cole paused, then shook his head. No, I'm not. Her smile deepened. Good. I didn't want to be just friends either. They laughed softly, even as the stars turned overhead. For a brief moment the fear and the danger faded, but both of them knew it wouldn't be over yet. More attackers might come. And if they did, Cole would be ready. This time not just as a protector, but as someone who had something to protect with all his heart. Days passed after the attack in the grove. The calm forest seemed to hide a growing storm beneath its quiet beauty. Cole and Sira spent their time preparing. They knew the danger was not over. Cole trained with the Elyari guards, teaching them how to defend themselves without weapons. His human strength and speed surprised the Elyari soldiers. They were graceful and skilled, but they had never faced true violence like Cole did. He showed them how to move quickly, how to read an enemy's intentions, and how to stay calm under pressure. Sira watched him with pride. She had never seen a human like him before, not just in strength, but in heart. She wanted to stand beside him in the coming battle, even if it was dangerous. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned orange, an urgent message arrived. Scouts spotted a new group of attackers moving toward the city. They were larger in number and carried heavier weapons. Their goal was clear: to capture Elyari leaders and force the planet into submission. The Elyari elders gathered quickly. They asked Cole to lead the defense. At first he hesitated. He was just one man. But then he looked at Sira. She nodded quietly, trusting him. I will do everything I can, Cole said. The next day the city prepared for battle. Walls were guarded, streets were patrolled, and civilians were moved to safety. Cole stood on a high wall, looking out at the approaching enemy. The attackers wore dark armor and moved like shadows, but they did not scare Cole. He was ready. When the attackers reached the city gates, Cole took command. He gave orders calmly and clearly, guiding the Elyari soldiers into formation. The fight began with a loud crash of energy blasts and shouting. Cole fought at the front line, his fists moved fast and hard. He broke weapons, knocked down attackers, and protected his people with fierce determination. Unlike before, his rage was controlled, focused on justice, not anger. Sira fought beside him, using her knowledge of the city to help block attackers and guide civilians to safety. Together, they were a force the enemy had never expected. During the battle, Cole saw one of the attackers aiming at Sira. Without hesitation, he threw himself in front of her and caught the blow on his arm. Pain shot through him, but he did not fall. Cole! Sira cried, reaching for him. He smiled through the pain. I'm okay. Keep moving. The Elyari soldiers fought harder, inspired by Cole's courage and Sira's calm strength. Slowly, the attackers began to fall back. The defenders pushed forward, reclaiming the city streets. Finally, after hours of fighting, the enemy retreated. The city was safe. For now. Cole and Sira stood together on the city wall, looking at the stars. His arm was bandaged, but his spirit was stronger than ever. You were amazing, Sira said softly. We did it together, Cole replied. She smiled and took his hand. Your rage isn't a danger. It's a shield, a sign of how much you care. Cole squeezed her hand. And you are my reason. In that moment, they knew their bond was unbreakable. The Elyari now saw Cole not just as a human, but as their protector, the man who fought with both strength and heart. But somewhere beyond the stars, the Zareth Syndicate watched and planned their next move. The war was far from over. The city of Elyara slowly returned to calm after the recent attack. The skies were clear, and the soft light of the moons bathed the streets in gentle silver. But for Cole and Sira, life had changed forever. In the grand hall of the Elyari elders, a rare ceremony was held. The air was filled with soft music and quiet voices. The elders had decided to honor Cole for his courage and strength, not just as a visitor but as someone who had become part of their world. Cole stood with Sira by his side. He wore a simple cloak, but the respect in the room was heavier than any armor. The eldest among the Eliari stepped forward and spoke. Cole, human of Earth, you have shown us the true meaning of protection. Your strength saved our people when we needed it most. We offer you a place among us, a guardian of Eliara, and teacher to those who would learn your ways. The hall filled with quiet murmurs of approval. Cole looked at Sira. She smiled softly, proud and calm. He nodded. I accept, but only if Sira will stand with me. The elders looked surprised but pleased. Sira stepped forward and took his hand. We will face what comes together, she said. The ceremony ended with songs of peace and hope. Outside, the stars shone bright, promising a new beginning. Days turned into weeks. Cole trained the Eliari guards, teaching them human combat techniques and discipline. But more than fighting, he taught them about courage, loyalty, and protecting those you love. His lessons were not just about strength, they were about heart. Sira continued to stand by him, helping in the community and learning his ways. Together, they grew stronger, not just as warriors but as partners. One night, as they sat outside their home under the wide sky, Sira leaned her head on Cole's shoulder. Do you miss Earth? She asked softly. Cole smiled. Sometimes. But here, with you, I have found a home. Sira looked up at the stars. We all have a place in this universe. I'm glad ours is together. Cole wrapped his arm around her. I never knew I could care like this. You've changed me. And you've changed me, she said, smiling. Their quiet moment was broken by a distant sound, the hum of a ship, entering Eliara's atmosphere. The Zareth Syndicate's threat was not over, but now the Eliari had a protector unlike any before. Together, Cole and Sira stood ready to face the future. No matter what came next, they would meet it with strength, courage, and love.